Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Digging with Dad. Today we're going to be making breakfast, except breakfast with a little bit of a twist. We're making handheld breakfast. We're going to do breakfast burritos or breakfast wraps, whatever you want to call them. I tend to make these, once every few weeks. I make a whole pile of them, and then you can kind of call it meal prep. That way it's really just because I'm a little bit too lazy sometimes in the morning, and I want something decent to eat without having to put the effort in on a weekday when I'm busy for work. So this one is a little bit of a longer one, but it's not difficult. It's just there's a bunch of different steps, right? For example, before we started, I actually made a couple pans of just tater tots, right? Now for this one, we're going to be using just basic tortilla wraps, some refried beans, breakfast sausage, whatever kind you like. You can even use bacon too if you prefer. A few eggs, some shredded cheese, some cilantro, that type of thing. So let's get into it. The first thing we got to do is we have to take our breakfast sausage and we have to get the casing off, right? We're going to be actually turning these into, call it maybe like a breakfast sausage crumble. So we don't need the casing at all to keep the form. So to do that, if we've never done this before, we take our sausage and just lightly score a line down the middle, right? You don't need to cut all the way through. And you're just gonna kind of peel it away. And it may stick a bit to the meat, it may not, and you can just peel that right back, right? So there you still have kind of the breakfast sausage shape, but a lot easier to break up now that it's not being held in place by that casing. So we'll finish up with the rest of these breakfast sausages, and then we'll head on back to the stove and we'll get started with the rest, okay? See you in a bit. Okay, so now we're back over at the stove here, and we've got a pretty deep kind of frying pan skillet thing here. And we're gonna start off here by going to, let's say medium high heat, something like that. We're not gonna add any oil because there's gonna be plenty of fat and grease in the sausage already. So what we're gonna start off, right, we've got that heating up. We're just gonna take our breakfast sausage that we took the casing off of, dump these in. Yummy. Don't worry, it gets more appetizing. There we go. All right, and while that starts to cook, we're just gonna break it up into, I kind of go like as small as I can here, and I continue to do that as we start to cook these down. All right, so it looks like we're pretty good here. You see, even if you get a little bit of the burn bits and whatnot, that's actually perfect, right? I love that kind of flavor. You just want to make sure that the sausage is cooked all the way through before we move on. So we've got that sausage in there. You could drain the grease if you want to. I'm not gonna though, because I'm in the camp, fat is flavor. So I'll keep it all in there. Next, what we're gonna need is 14, count them, 14 eggs. And you're gonna scramble those up into a bowl and just dump them in here. This is what 14 scrambled eggs looks like into a small cereal bowl. Could I have used a bigger bowl to make it easier? Yes. But I had already committed and it's too late. So we'll get our eggs in here and we're just gonna start stirring them around. We're essentially making a big batch of scrambled eggs here, right? But with some sausage bits in it. Right, this is nothing crazy. Just make sure to keep scraping up from the bottom, right? You don't want any of the burned eggs now on the bottom. And here would be, if you're going to add seasoning, maybe you want a little extra salt and pepper, or you want anything else, go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna keep it kind of plain Jane here because there's lots of seasoning in the breakfast sausage already, and I like that flavor, so I'll stick with that. Okay, we're also gonna add a bit of milk. You can also use cream if you like a little bit of a richer taste, but milk's fine for me. And it looks like someone left just a little bit of milk left in and didn't change out the bag. I wonder who did that. Now this one, you can kind of go by your feel and your preference on how much milk you want to add in there, if any at all, right? Maybe you don't like it, but I like the scrambled eggs to be a little bit fluffier with the milk. It takes a little bit longer to cook it all down, but I think it's worth it. Okay, now while we let this kind of cook down and really kind of firm up, let's head back over to the counter and let's keep going with the rest of our prep here. Okay, while our eggs finish up on the stove behind us, let's finish prepping everything else. We will need some shredded cheese, but I don't know if it's just me, but every time I go to shred cheese for something, it's never enough. So I'm just figuring that whatever's in this bag is not going to be enough. So I shredded a bit more. Next, we'll need our tortillas, like I mentioned earlier. These guys here. I get the big ones. These are probably 10-inch tortillas. Cut the top off of our refried beans into a cereal bowl again. If you've never kind of used refried beans out of a can, the experience of emptying the can is going to be something for you. Oh, did you hear that sound? It's very appetizing, I know. But trust me, they're great. Plus, they'll give you that little added protein boost just to kind of keep your stomach full at breakfast, right? So you're not hungry again in 10 or 15 minutes. So all I'm doing with these in the bowl is I'm just mashing it with the back of the spoon just to make it smooth, right? You get something that looks like this. Okay. Don't forget to stir our eggs. So let's start by laying out our tortillas. We are going to need, the magic number for this recipe is 14. How I came to that number is, honestly, the breakfast sausages that I use, there's 14 in there. And I figure if I want one breakfast sausage per wrap, that's 14. So, let's lay these out in kind of like an assembly line format. Okay, next step. We're going to take our refried beans and we're going to take kind of a good scoop on the back of your spoon and just do like a swap on every tortilla. Just something like this. And just down the middle for now, right? We don't need to be fancy. We're going to come back and clean this up. All right, so I went down the assembly line. Everyone's got a bit of refried beans on it, and I do have a little bit left. So really it's just, which one did I go a little bit light on, right? Just even it out. That's all. After I've emptied out my bowl, I'm just going back over again and just kind of flattening out and spreading the refried beans a bit better over the whole tortilla, right? Right? So we get something that looks like this. Check on our eggs. Okay, now remember I did say that the eggs are going to take a while. You really want to make sure there's as little moisture as possible in the bottom of that pan, right? Because we don't want to be scooping sopping wet eggs onto our wraps because then it's going to immediately soak through the tortilla. Not a fun experience. So we're kind of cooking them and drying them out, but when we reheat these or when you have them fresh, there's enough moisture in the beans and in the sausages and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to be bad. So next step is our tater tots. Now you don't have to use tater tots. You could use hash browns, you could use, I don't know, French fries. You can use whatever you like. I like tots. All right, bonus round time. So I don't really measure the amount of tots I make. I just kind of make 2 pans. And that way I know I have at least 3 tater tots for each wrap. Well, turns out I made a little extra. Oh darn. So that means everybody now gets 4. Plus there might be some samples for the chef. Let's fix it up. Alright guys, our eggs are finished. I'm just going to set them off to the side here while they cool a little bit. And you want to try and, chop them up as much as you can. Okay, we don't want big, huge chunks of scrambled eggs just because it's going to be difficult to kind of distribute in your wrap, right? This way, if they're all small, a little broken and crumbles, it's a little bit easier just to guide them along. So. Okay, we have our refried beans laid down. We have our tater tots lined up. Next step is our eggs. So we're just going to take a scoop of these scrambled eggs with sausages on every one. Let's do it. Okay, we have our eggs down. Next step, a little bit of melted cheese or shredded cheese. So start with the bag first, and I'll probably use the rest. All right guys, and the last little bit, and this one is entirely optional, I'm gonna add a little bit of cilantro just for an extra bit of flavor. If you don't like cilantro, if you think it smells like soap or tastes like soap, then don't use it. I'm not the boss over you. Okay, final stage. We've got everything laid out here. What I did is I just grabbed a little bit of tin foil. 14 sheets, one for each one. And we're just gonna wrap these and wrap them in tin foil. Now myself, I throw them in the freezer, and then when I'm ready, workday morning or something like that, take it out of the freezer, throw it into toaster oven, regular oven, whatever you've got, 450 for about half an hour or so. Perfect, ready to go. So let's get wrapping these. What we're gonna wanna do is, I kind of turn it's inevitable that all your stuff you piled in there, it kind of fell to one side. So put that pile towards you, right? And take both of your sides and fold them in. And then you're gonna take the side that's closest to you and go over top of your pile of filling, right? So fold our sides in, and then push that front side over your pile of filling. Then take your hands and you're kind of gonna do like this, right? You're gonna squeeze, but you're pulling the filling back in, right? We want a nice tight burrito or a wrap here. So we'll pull that back in, and I kind of keep my pinkies pulled in as I'm doing it. I don't want stuff to squirt out the sides, right? So we pull in, squeeze our pinkies in, and then you start to roll. Keeping it nice and tight, and then you're left with something like that. Okay? Nothing squirts out the sides. Both ends are sealed, so piece of cake. And then we just lay this kind of diagonally on our tin foil. And there we go. Breakfast burrito. Let's do the rest. And there we have it, guys. Easy breakfast burritos prepped for a good long while. Thanks for watching. Enjoy.
Oh my god!